What's going on, everybody? Travis Witherspoon, Carter Cow Capital, Trade with Travis on YouTube. I hope everybody's doing very well. Today is July 11th. This is your trade of the week. Last week we didn't have a trade of the week because when we ended up looking at the overall pairs, we didn't see anything that was suitable enough to be able to be a part of it. This week is pretty much the same, but I want to be able to talk about gold, United States dollar, and be able to get back into what we ended up talking about previously for the people that actually end up making money off of the first move and the first leg of this one. So we're going to hop back into this one again. We're going to end up taking a look at it in 5 minutes or less, like always. And like always, please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Please make sure that you get a part of our mailing list, because obviously you end up getting the trade of the week first, and then everybody else ends up getting the trade of the week after that. If you want to be a part of our mailing list, all you have to do is go to cartercowcapital.com/start here. Once again, cartercowcapital.com/start here. Sign up for our mailing list, and then from there, obviously, you end up getting the trade of the week. So let's hop into it. Last week, what we ended up talking, or the last time we ended up talking about this, we ended up saying that the market was basically bullish, and from there, we ended up finding the counter trend line break. When we first got into this trade, which was about going on about 4 weeks ago now, we actually ended up catching it when the market was right around this overall area, and it broke its first counter trend line. And for the trading that we end up doing, we actually end up doing very well for that overall movement because of that counter trend line break. Now, where are we at on the weekly? The weekly is in a no trade zone, meaning that the weekly is actually moving down into the buy zone and needs a little bit more movement before it turns into be oversold at this particular point. While that's happening, we can also see that the market has been starting to have a little bit of a retracement right around the 1750 area when it comes down to movement. Now, we take a look at this from a daily perspective. We know that the weekly is down in the sell zone. We know that the weekly has been trading toward the downside. But we also know that we're in the second leg of an overall Fibonacci, where the extension for the overall movement can go as low as 1672 for its overall movement. Our first move that we ended up talking about for being able to get out was the fall area. The fall area is right around 1750. If you end up making money off of that move, congratulations, because that was our first move where we expected that the market was going to go to. Now, looking at where we are at this particular point, where's the market going to end up moving to now? Well, if we look at where we are at this particular point, we can see that currently, right now, we are in a position where the market is basically moving and it has been retracing bullish, which means that the Japanese yen and the Australian dollar and a few other things are starting to get a little bit stronger. Well, we take a look at what's happening with the US dollar index. We can see that this market, as long as it ends up breaking a counter trend line break to the downside, is already in the sell zone, gives us an opportunity to be able to start looking at being able to sell at least to the fall area or back down to where 1672 will end up being at. So we have a game plan for this one as long as the United States dollar starts to remain to be strong. At this particular point, when you look at US based pairs, we can see that it's a little bit stagnant. Currently right now, going into the middle of the week, will probably end up being a better move and better suited for the market to be able to push toward the downside or see United States dollar strength. But when it comes down to a trade of the week, obviously we're looking at it from a weekly perspective and being able to see if there can end up being an opportunity. I think that the best opportunity when it comes down to US based pairs is probably going to end up being on gold, United States dollar. Now, this is the game plan. What are we looking for? Remember, there's three things that will end up making us have a trade. There'll be time frame alignment. The daily and the weekly are trading in the same direction. We know that. There's potential bearish opportunity when it comes down to getting to that. All right, we're looking for something that's in an overbuy or oversold position. Well, what we see is the market is in the sell zone. With the market being in the sell zone, that means that it's giving us opportunity that a sale will end up happening at some point in time that we can be able to get into. Then after that, the last thing we end up being a catalyst. Remember, catalyst is broken down into three separate things. It's a counter trend line break, and then after that, being able to see what's happening from an economic news perspective. From an economic news perspective, we keep on seeing solid news when it comes down to the United States dollar, which means that the United States dollar is just going to get stronger as a currency. Now, what's happening with gold? Remember, gold is set up to be more of a fearful type of movement, a fearful type of asset, meaning that anytime that we believe that the United States dollar is going to end up being weak, then gold actually ends up getting stronger. If we look at what's happening with the US Japanese yen, we can see that the US still has a little bit more strength compared to the Japanese yen overall. So, game plan will end up being this. As soon as you end up seeing a counter trend line break, when it comes down to this overall move, you'll have your breakout, and then after that, you'll look for your retest. So once you end up having that retest, I will focus in on a smaller time frame. We typically look at the 2 hour to be able to give an identity about what happens. As soon as we end up getting this inside of the sell zone and breaks the counter trend line break, you have your sell from there. The stop loss from what I end up placing up will end up being above 1827. take profit can end up being in 2 different or 3 different directions. First one end up being a fall area at 1757. The second area will end up being 1720, or you can go all the way down to the daily D extension, which will be at 1672. If you like what we end up doing, please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Please make sure that you end up tapping into these trades of the week, because right now we're still 6 for 6 and we're still perfect. So as long as you've been paying attention to these videos, you've been making money with us. Like always, make sure that you end up planning your trade your plan. Everyone, we'll see you next week for the next trade of the week. Take it easy.